Hello my dear students, today we are going to start with a new topic which we have done partially in my last video. We'll complete the entire subunit today where we'll discuss about sources of generating knowledge. In my last video, I have discussed with you about what is knowledge and different types of knowledge. Hope you remember all of them. Now let's begin the next part of it. There are different sources of knowledge. So when we want to get knowledge, we have to go to certain places, or we have to gather the knowledge from certain places. Those are known as, or those are known as sources of knowledge. And sometimes we do it using different kind of methods also. That also we are going to discuss over here. The first source is authority. The second one is tradition. Third one is experience. Then deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, and scientific method. We are going to study all of them, and we'll study in details the scientific method. Let's see about different types of sources of knowledge one by one. The first source of knowledge is authority. Authority means someone who is more learned or experienced in that particular field than the seeker, than the knowledge seeker. For example, say if you are teaching history as a subject in a school, and a child who is having some problem in history, they run to you, they ask you for solving their problem. They seek knowledge from you to understand that particular problem. So in their eyes, you are the authority, you are the expert of history. So you become the source of knowledge for that child. He is seeking the answer and you are providing the answer, the knowledge to that child. So you become the authority for the child. Same way for us, if we want to know something, we'll go to expert of that particular field which we want to know. The second source of knowledge is tradition. Tradition is closely related with the customs, values, our community, our society, and we follow it from generation to generation. Every household has different kind of tradition which they follow from generations. These traditions are are right most of the time, and sometimes they may be erroneous. They may have flaws. But without knowing their flaws or their advantage, we follow them. We do them. So that is known as tradition. I want to give you two examples in this regard. First one, say you might have experienced this in your life when you are getting wet in the rainy season and you come all wet at your home. Your parents or your grannies or your grandparents immediately get you a cup of milk with a pinch of turmeric into that. Why they gave it? Because they know that it is going to be beneficial for you. They may not actually know what kind of effect, or it acts as an immunity booster, or it will help you to cope up with the cold which you may catch. They don't know about the scientific reason, but they will do it as a tradition. They'll give you to do it, to drink it, right? So that is tradition. Sometimes we may not know the scientific reason, though nowadays we know what kind of effect turmeric is having on our body, antibacterial and then immunity boosting properties. But earlier they didn't know, but still they used to follow it. That is tradition. That is the knowledge we gain from our tradition. Same way, you might have experienced this that someone or an elder person stops you from crossing the road or moving ahead in the road. When a cat crosses the path, they say that don't go across. Stand there for some time and then cross it. Though it does not have any scientific basis or it may not result to any kind of bad luck to you, but still they say. So traditions sometimes may be flawed or may not have all positive actions. They are just being followed because they are going on for generations and generations. The third type of source of knowledge is experience. This is the best source of knowledge. When we do things, we understand so many different things out of that experience. And we remember this for long terms. Learning by doing, you all might know that when we do things, we remember it for a long time. So experiences which we do with our hand, we get more and more knowledge out of it. So for each experience we get two type of knowledge. One, what we should do, and the other, what we should not do. Apart from that, experiences are very personalized. They are depending on how you are perceiving it. So the same experience may not have same kind of outcome in different persons. For example, now we are going through this pandemic of COVID. See it in this light that many of us or many people who are not able to work properly and they are confined into their homes, they are being very panicked that we are not able to do our work properly. But at the same time, there are people who are enjoying this time with their family. They are also working properly with from their home, and they are enjoying the time with their kid and their family. So the same pandemic is having different effect on different people. So experiences are very individualized. They are very personal. Next type of source of knowledge is deductive reasoning. In deductive reasoning, we proceed from general to specific. For example, we know that all organisms are made up of cells. All organisms are made up of cells. And we also know that humans are living organisms. So we can deduce from this that humans are also made up of cells. This is that from all organisms to humans, we are going from general to specific. So this kind of reasoning from where we get the knowledge is known as deductive reasoning, where we proceed from general to specific premises or statements. The next type of source is inductive reasoning. In inductive reasoning, we proceed from specific to general. For example, we all know that Earth is having a gravitational pull and it pulls everything towards itself. So that rule that gravity pulls everything towards itself is very specific, and it is applied to everything that is general. So in inductive reasoning, we proceed from specific to general. Most of the time, inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning work hand in hand. To get into the specific premises, we do experiment with general and we reach to a generalization or a specific statement. And that generalization is again applied to the general people. or general statement or in general premises. So inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning works hand in hand. This is the flow chart which shows how a scientific method should proceed. First, we ask a question related to anything which haunts us. We ask a question, and from that question, to find out the answer, we try to search for answer, and this search starts by the study of other researchers or by the study of other literature. We try to find out the answer of that particular question by studying other literature. If we get the answer, then it's well and good. We have our answer to that question. But if we don't get our answer, we need to proceed further. And in that proceed and that and in this process, first we construct the hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but a direction or a tentative answer to our question, what we want to know, what we actually think can be a logical outcome of that question. So that we construct the hypothesis. So, and after we construct the hypothesis, we test the hypothesis using different experiments. And when we test it with different experiment, we may get two different answer. Either the experiment says that okay, we have reached to the answer, our hypothesis or tentative answer is correct, or it may say no. So when we get a no answer, at that time we again have to go back to start with different experiment. So we are starting with one experiment, we are following all the procedure. The answer can either be yes or either be no. When it is no, we again going back to the experiment phase and we are trying something else and trying to find out the answer. Now, when we find out that the experiment is going to give going to give answer of the question, at that time we analyze the data, we analyze all the data, then we try to see that if the results proves the hypothesis or not. If it proves the hypothesis, then we are getting result that our hypothesis is correct. If we don't get the if the data tells us that no, the hypothesis is not cannot be accepted, then again we have to go back to hypothesis and form a new hypothesis and follow the entire process again. Again a new hypothesis, new experiment, the same procedure. We according to the experiment we do the procedure, and again it goes on till the time we get the result which align with our hypothesis or which proves our hypothesis, which confirms our hypothesis. So this is the flow chart of scientific method. This is how a scientific method goes on. So you can see that it is very systematic and it goes on in an organized manner. So scientific method is a systematic and organized study. So what are the different steps of scientific method? First is make an observation. We have a question. We are trying to find out a question. Related to that, we'll make different or as many observation as possible. We'll observe. Then we'll ask question about those observations. Say from these observations in your class, you go and you see that there is disruption in your class, and you see that the child is not following the rules which are laid down for the class. They are not keeping quiet, there is a disturbance in the class, you cannot manage your class properly. So what is your first work is to observe it very carefully, and after observation you will see that this child is making the class troubled, this child is making the class little haywire, this is creating nuisance in the class. So that is how you will gather data about your question, that why the class is not being managed properly. Then you will form an hypothesis that maybe because of the say 3 or 4 child who are having certain kind of troubles, they disturb the other person. So that will be your prediction based on your observation or your information which you gather after doing the observation of your class. Then you will test the hypothesis. Here, if you want to control or manage your class properly, you will say that okay, these are the 3 child or these are the 4 group of child who are creating a nuance in the class. They are not keeping quiet. They are making the entire class noisy. They are disrupting the class. If I can manage these 4 boys, if I can ask these 4 boys or make them involved in my class, I can manage the class very properly. That will be your hypothesis. So according to that, you will start working on those 4 boys, that what kind of problem they are having, why they are making the class disruption in the class, why they are not attentive in the class. You will start doing your experiment related to that, and based on that you will collect data, and at the end you may find out that yes, these 4 boys are making the class disruptions, or you can get no, they are not responsible, something else may be responsible. So in that case, either you are going to accept the hypothesis which you have made, that okay, the child are the group of 4 child are disrupting the class. Either you accept that or you reject that. When you will reject, then you will see that you need some other reason, right? The class is not still managed well and these 4 boys are not responsible, then there must be some other reason. So again you have to modify your hypothesis and you have to try to find out the answer, and then you have to keep on going the experiment till the time you get that there is no discrepancy. You can manage your class very well. So till the time you reach to that answer, you have to go on and on and on. This is scientific method, that you go on and on unless and until the question is answered properly. I hope you have understood the. Let's see what are the characteristics of scientific method. The first characteristics already I told you, that it is very orderly and a systematic process. Everything goes step by step. It also attempts to control the external factor which are not directly influence the experiment. So the researcher or the person tries to control the external factor which are not under their investigation. The findings are all based on the empirical evidences. That means the evidences which we get which we get through our different sense organs. So the findings are always based on evidences, and these findings can be generalized because it is done using scientific method, where we are going on and on till the time we reach to the answer very properly, accurately, or we can accept our hypothesis till the time we go and on and on. So we can generalize the findings which is there for our method. Most of the time, the scientific method is based on assumptions and hypotheses. We have to develop the hypothesis. We have to assume something, and we have to find out, or we have to put forth hypothesis which is actually the tentative answer of our question. Also, it is conducted to develop or test the hypothesis. Most of the time, scientific method is employed to test the hypothesis. And after the test of hypothesis, either we accept it or we reject. The limitation of scientific method. The first limitation of scientific method is moral and ethical problems. The researcher always faces this kind of problem, that where to draw the line, where to intervene, where to stop ourselves. So that is always a question in scientific method, that we should not cross our line in any case, and we should not also hurt others due to our work. So that is always a problem in scientific method. Most of the time, or many a times, people take scientific method or the work which are going on to prove the hypothesis into different ways, in a wrong way. So it poses a great deal of problem for the development of the scientific method. The next limitation is human complexity. We all know human mind is the most complex thing, and the emotions which are there, they play a huge amount of role in different aspects. Sometimes while doing the research, we are being too engrossed, emotionally linked, that we lose our objectivity, and our observations become subjective. We become biased, and they may result to flawed result of the scientific method. So those complexity are also a limitation to scientific method, or they may give rise to different kind of flawed result in scientific method. So that is another problem or limitation of scientific method. The third limitation is measurement problem. There are so many different kind of attributes which we cannot measure using any standardized tool. Sometimes they are very difficult to quantify certain attributes. At that time, it becomes very difficult to get correct answers. Though there are methods where we do qualitative analysis, but then in qualitative analysis also there are different kind of measurement problems. The error in measurements are there, which hampers or which gives a an error in the method, in the result. So this is another problem in scientific method, that is measurement problem, to measure the attributes. And another limitation is external variable which may control the problem, which affect the result of the study. Say you are teaching mathematics and you found out that your students are poor in solving word problems in math, and to help them to overcome their problem, you have devised a program so that your child, your student can overcome this program, and you are started doing the experiment with the child, doing or implementing the program with the child so that they can overcome. But in the same time, in tuition, the child is studying the same chapter by another teacher or by the tuition teacher. So, when you will get the result of your post test or your test, at that time, the test will show the result not only of your program but also of the effect of tuition teacher on the child, right? So those external variables we cannot control, or it becomes very difficult to control. They poses problem to scientific method. They give, they does not give a proper answer to the scientific method. So external variables and controlling external variables are very big problem which are faced by many researchers in scientific